Leslie Reed with ICNDMag.com, and this is Newsmakers. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Melina Kennedy, who's a candidate for the mayor's office in 2011. Melina, good seeing you.
Thanks, you too. It's always good to see you, Leslie.
I appreciate that. Melina, you know, we always like to know, obviously you're running for mayor, that's the obvious point, but what about you? Family, background?
Sure,
Tell us
thank you.
about it.
Well, I have been married 17 years to a great guy. He and I met on the track team at IU many years ago.
Go Hoosiers.
And we have a family. We have 2 children. Feel very lucky. We live here in Indianapolis, and frankly, we absolutely love it. We think this is the best city, so we're thrilled to be here.
All right, that's great. Of course, I'm a Hoosier, native Indianapolis, and of course an IU guy, so I understand that totally. Public service, being around public service, how long have you been around?
I have been involved in public service for many years in different ways. I was a former deputy mayor, so I had the opportunity to work directly at the city in public service, making a difference, and that was fabulous. But I've also been very involved in my community. I've been involved in many boards involving health issues, education issues, children's issues, and that's been a combination of public service, both directly working at the city as well as working outside in a volunteer capacity.
Yeah, and that's, obviously those things are important, but maybe in a more pointed way, how do those experiences, or what about those experiences make you a good candidate for mayor?
I think it's important. I mean, we were the 13th largest city, sometimes 12, sometimes 14, but you know, within that range. And we have complicated issues in this city. We've got a serious economic challenge that we have that lies ahead. We've got environmental issues, education issues are tough. And so I think having experience for this job is just critical. I think the fact that I've been a deputy mayor, I have dealt with very challenging situations in the neighborhoods, in our community, is going to make me a candidate and then hopefully a mayor who can really get the job done. And that experience, I think, is very important.
Economic development. It's a big word thrown about, easy to use, and obviously with the state of the economy, unemployment. Are there specific issues, programs that you would bring as a mayor to that issue?
Sure, absolutely. And I'd start, again, going back to my experience. Jobs and economic development is something that I did for many years at the city level. And it is the most fundamental thing. I mean, at the end of the day, being able to have a job, provide for your family, you know, help promote the economy, those things all come from having a job. And it's just something that we cannot let up on as a city. Specifically for me, there are several things I want to pursue. Number one, it's in part attitude. We need a competitive mayor who never lets the ball drop. And for anyone who's worked with me, I think they would say I don't let the ball drop. But that's important. You have to have the right attitude. You've got to be competitive and constantly looking for opportunities for your city. Secondly, we need to be promoting neighborhood economic development. You know, the little restaurant in a neighborhood, the corner barber shop, these are things that make neighborhoods high quality of life, a great place to live, but also provide jobs. I want to make sure that we're promoting minority and women-owned businesses. We should be very proud of the fact that we have a diverse city, and helping make sure that we have opportunities in a very diverse manner is important to me. So those are some of the things that I would pursue. But at the end of the day, for me and my platform, there's really no issue more important than jobs and the economy.
Melina, what other issues? Obviously crime, not so much a question for me, but what other issues stand out in your mind that are important for the city going forward?
Education is another huge issue. Every child has a right to have an education, and frankly, every person, every adult has a right to have a job, but they've got to be properly educated to be able to take on those jobs. And so I think it's our responsibility as a community, not only the city, but parents and school boards and everybody working together to make sure that we have an education system that really gives people opportunities. And we have challenges there. Our largest public school system has a very low graduation rate, and we've just got to be focused on that. So education is another issue that's going to be, and currently is, a huge issue on the horizon. I think the quality of our environment and access to parks and healthy activities. I was very concerned to read that the city planned to shut down West Montgomery Pool over on the Far East Side. I mean, these are amenities that our city not only needs for a good quality of life, but frankly for our children to succeed. It's a lot of issues, and that's not even scratching the surface. Crime is very important. Transportation, how do we get people to jobs? There are a whole host of issues, but I feel like having been involved at the city and being so involved in my community, I have a good sense for how many different issues our city faces, and certainly have the energy and the sense of competition to bring that kind of drive into the mayor's office.
Well, you know, I know that you're athletic, and I hear the competition seeping in there, and certainly I think we're going to need that. There have been aggressive offices and administrations before, but I think we're going to need that going forward, especially as you mentioned issues like education and, in my mind, transportation as well. Well, Melina, you know, it's obvious, but I got to ask you.
Sure.
First lady, first female, first woman, mayor of Indianapolis, got a nice ring to it. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, you know, there's certainly, you know, something positive, I think, about the first female elected candidate, or I'm sorry, the first female elected mayor. But having said that, for me, this race is not about gender. It's not about anything other than a quality, qualified mayor who has a real passion for this city, which I do. I think we have an incredible city, and I have the energy to make sure that we can continue to move the city forward. So I would be honored, I'd be thrilled to be the first elected woman mayor of the city of Indianapolis, but at the end of the day, it's an issue that is what it is, and I won't make it a forefront issue, it just happens to be the case.
Well, the good thing about that is once that happens, then we won't have to say the first, it'll be done. And
that's right.
Whether it's male or female.
Exactly.
Last question, and this one's kind of been rolling around in my mind because obviously the Super Bowl is a little bit down the line. Obviously, cities like the Super Bowl, sporting events, Pacers, Colts, etc., for economic development. Have you, because you'd fall right into that, I guess your first few days,
yes,
you'd be
right.
going to the Super Bowl in Indianapolis. Have you thought a little bit or much about how that would transcend futuristically for Indianapolis, economically, culturally, as an attraction for other business, etc.?
I think any kind of exposure your city gets nationally is very beneficial. So to the extent that our city is shown and highlighted both from the visitors who come here for the event as well as just on TV, that's a really positive thing. But what's even more important is there have been some economic development issues, that have been part of the Super Bowl, including the Near East Side economic development. Those will leave behind some very important economic development for the city, and I think that's very positive as well.
And I ask because, you know...
Should have taken you up on the water.
I ask because, and I appreciate your answer, because, you know, Super Bowl, sporting events, in light of some of the other sporting issues and money, sometimes there's a group that feels like, well, this is coming for them, but not for the broad. And I think it's important for the city, at least in my view, that have some tie into all the citizens.
I think that's right, and I think I would say in closing that, you know, having a Super Bowl and professional sports is a positive thing, but it can't be the only thing we focus on. We've got a lot of issues in this city, and we've got to make sure we're tackling them every day.
Melina, it's a pleasure talking to you as always. This is Leslie Reed with ICIndyMag.com, Newsmakers, and if it's around Indy, we're around it.